Okay, yeah, I see the sign here saying that your recording is in process. So, um, thank you. I think this is the second or third time that I've judged for the Wisconsin club. So, thank you for inviting me back. I guess I didn't totally fail it the first time, so you allowed me to come back. Tonight we're going to be doing something kind of interesting. Is we are having three newly trained judges join me in doing the critique. And just so you know that we put our heads together and we've looked at all of your images, we've discussed them, and there are pros and cons for four people judging an image. There's always compromises, so consequently, I don't think we had very many fives because we couldn't agree on being that low, and we didn't have any tens because we couldn't all agree that it was a 10. But I think we were all on the same page and our judging was very close. So I'm going to share my screen and just introduce what our process was. So you probably get some flickering, and we'll get this back to the beginning. And did you guys tell me when you're seeing the PowerPoint?
It's there.
Okay. So tonight we have Tom Mullen, Dak Herring, and Diane Herman joining us on this adventure. And I'm going to be kind of in the background as we've all talked over these images, and I think we're on the same page. So that'll be kind of nice. We're going to have each one of the judges judge a couple images and then rotate to the next judge. But I would like for just to talk a little bit about what we're trying to do as a judge. We want to have a system, so we want to be fair. We want to be consistent, because we've all had judges that have a lot of strong biases, and maybe they say things that are not appropriate for people who are trying to learn photography. And as a judge, we should be pretty good at photography. We should understand all those aspects of learning photography. So we want to critique and we want to inform. You know what I really want to add to the last one is we want to teach. We want to help people become better photographers. I've been teaching at Dakota County Tech College now for 32 years, so I'm going to be retiring fully this year. I'm mostly retired now. So I've enjoyed what I've been doing, and hopefully I can bring some more interest to the judging circuit here in the salons. If you ask a judge what makes a good photograph, you're going to get as many opinions as there is judges for sure. Here are some of the things that judges come up and say, this is what I use to determine whether photography is good. And there's a lot of stuff here. And there's no way that our brains are going to be able to hold all these characteristics and be able to give you good input on all of them. So we kind of narrowed it down under the guidance of your Western Wisconsin's guidelines. Is we want every image to have TIC. So what that TIC stands for is technical attributes. Really has everything to do with your camera and your software. Interest and impact, which is a very tricky characteristic, and it's very hard to put into an image. And composition, of which each one of these things have many different attributes. So let's break it down in some of these things. Now, when I finish these next 2 or 3 slides, I'm going to ask each one of the new judges to kind of address 1 or 2 of these characteristics that they feel is really strong when they judge. Because we all have different weighting to our judges' criteria. And each judge, you're going to kind of see that there's a way that they organize all these characteristics. So technical, some people would say focused is the most important thing out of all of these. But not every judge says that. So interest and impact, here are some things that really can add to that interest impact quality. Now, some people might weigh real heavy on that unique view or perspective and not so heavy on everything else. So always think about these things that all the judges may have in their mind. Last is composition. This comes straight from Kodak's recommendations from 50 years ago of 7 different characteristics that a picture should have. Now, to let you know my bias, and the judges probably realized this when we were going through all the images, I really look for simplicity in story and rule of thirds. If I was to pick something big out of all these characteristics, those 2 float to the top for me almost all the time. So I might say many times, that's not in the thirds where I think it should be, or it could be improved if it's in the thirds. But that's just me. Just know that that's just my opinion. Okay, so with that in mind, could each one of you, let's start with Dak, give us a couple ideas on what you look for on all those characteristics.
Hello, my name is Dak Naring. Thanks for having us here tonight. When I'm looking at an image, color and tone mean a lot. So tone, so it can be black and white. I weigh those equally. A storytelling element is crucial. I mean, I want to feel like I'm there. I want to feel a mood, and then through a point of view, high angle, low angle, so an interesting angle, something that's going to capture my attention. That's important to me.
Okay, sounds good. Diane?
Hi, nice to be here tonight. I guess for me, a couple things. I really like that feeling that I'm there. I want to know why you took the picture so that there's a strong subject, that it's handled well technically. I really like the wow factor. When I see an image, I want to think, gosh, I wish I had taken that picture. Composition, that kind of thing, are more secondary to me.
Okay. And Tom?
Thank you for inviting us here tonight. This is my second time I've judged Western Wisconsin. I think it was last month or so. Things that I look for, how can I equate this? When men and women are going through those social sites, they're looking for a date, and they're flip. I like it when it just stops me and go, oh, I like this photo. So it as Diane said, and Dak and Daryl, the impact is really important to me, with the uniqueness of a photo, something that's going to make me stop and draw interest. Also, my other thing is the focus point. What in the image is driving me to look first at the image?
Good. Thanks, guys. I mean, that really kind of puts it out there that each one of us comes from a different place, as all judges do. And we try to be fair by considering all the characteristics, but we will always have a little bias. If we want to call it a pet peeve, I guess we could. It's usually that make or break thing that we look at first in an image. So bear with us as you're going to get some good flavors of judging tonight. I have my chat up on the side, so I know that people are muted and invisible. So if you wanted to put a question up there, I will try to be the answer for the judges, because they're going to be doing the talking and I'm going to be kind of just monitoring and going along. Is there any questions to start with from anybody? Okay. Well, we're going to try and do this between about a minute and minute and a half per slide. So I'm hoping, Terry, you kind of keep us on track as we go through. I will try to watch as well. Terry, I assume you have somebody on your end that will share the screen and show us the images, correct? I think Terry is mute, so I'm hoping she's listening.
Yeah, I'm listening. I had shut myself off. I didn't want to interfere. So I think if you just quit sharing, Daryl, mine might just come right up because I was sharing before you came on.
I did quit sharing.
Okay. So I will share my screen.
Yeah, and right now you're invisible. So, okay, looks like it's. I found it interesting as a judge that you folks would have 4 categories in one salon to judge. A little different than normally we face, but it was kind of nice because I think it gave a new frame of mind every time we went to
Okay.
image meet it. So I think I see your share.
Okay, good. And as you are finished speaking about a photo, just say next, please.
Next.
Wow. Nice.
Okay.
Past Daryl's too quickly.
Okay.
Did everybody catch that? One, the only?
Yes.
Okay, our first image under the assignment category is Beer Can Island Fireworks.
Yes. Let me preface this. Here's how this is going to work. So my name is Dak. I'm going to be leading off here. So I'll be taking the first 2 images. Diane's going to take the next 2. Tom will take the next 2, and we're just going to cycle through that way. So there was no particular rhyme and reason for who got what. It's just that's how it worked out. So I'll lead off with the Beer Can Island fireworks here. So fireworks are literally a blast to shoot. So that's fun. The maker captured the launch and the explosion well. The shooting fireworks is an imperfect science. Sometimes you want to let the shutter open for 3 seconds, sometimes up to 8 seconds. That's usually the sweet spot, letting the images develop. Now on this one, we do have looks like a slightly off horizon. So getting that straightened out would help the image, and otherwise the composition works well to be able to see the whole story.
Remembering this is the category of starburst and flare. So maybe I talk a little bit to that.
So right, so as we'll see down in other images, a high f-stop number, a 16, a 22, is going to create much more of a burst look. The flare is usually going to come from light entering the lens and bouncing around inside there. So on this one, we have a little bit of both elements, just not quite enough to bring it up any more points than what we gave it.
Okay, this is I Tried.
Yes. So this is, I was mentioning, so a higher f-stop number it worked for the burst here. So the maker got that okay. The surrounding area obviously has now gone to silhouette. So besides what looks like a flower in the foreground, there's not much storytelling to this, so I'm not really sure what I'm looking at. So in this case, if the maker had some more distance between that foreground element and in the sun, that would have allowed a little more light to hit that, and maybe that would have focused a little more attention on that element, as well as just cropping the whole frame down to just the essential part of the image. All right, next.
This one is Orange Fireworks.
This one I thought was really nice timing. I think the colors and the fireworks are pretty. I like the movement going on. I think the shutter speed captures it well. A couple of ideas for improvement potentially on the image would be maybe cropping it square. I like the flare down below, but I feel like the subject for me is those fireworks going off. And that brightness sort of draws my eye away from it. The other thing I wondered if you had the opportunity to use a wider angle so that you weren't cutting off some of those flares as they were going outward to get the full view of the projectiles. But it's a nice image.
Oops.
Yeah, sorry, you can move them. So this one is Sunrise on Hooters. It's a lovely subject. I think the exposure is nice, particularly considering the time of day. It looks like it's midday. Shadows are handled pretty well. I can see most of what's going on. Couple of improvement ideas on this one. I wonder if crop a bit from the left and maybe the bottom. The sun is a little bit centered. I'd prefer it maybe a little bit over to the side. And the far left on the bottom, I don't think adds to the subject matter. The other option, the other thing I thought you might want to consider, is the fact that the hoodoo, the main one in the middle, does merge a little bit with the mountain way in the background. So if there was a safe way to do it, see if there might be a way to get yourself higher or lower so that they didn't merge. Otherwise, I think that would strengthen the image, but I think it's a really nice one. Beautiful subject.
The next image is Under 94.
Hi. People hearing that?
Yeah, that was me.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right. The filter on this canvas was very unique. I've never seen this particular pose, which really drew my attention to the overall picture. The image is in focus. It met the criteria on the assignment with the starburst and the flares. It's a little bit overpowering. I was wondering what was causing the round spots under the bridge. I don't know if that was water, if that was part of the filter, what might be going on there. I was interested in how the starburst was created with the black lines and the intermixed yellow lines within the burst itself. They're coming right out of the edge into the upper part of the photo, but they're missing somewhat in the water portion of the image. I was thinking that maybe, I know the topic was starbursts and flares. However, I've been thinking about maybe putting this into the creative because I think it's a very creative photo. Next.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to be in the creative.
Pardon me?
Fang Arch. Boa.
We're in the sevens now.
Yeah. Fang Arch. The photo is overall in focus across the spectrum, which is part of my criteria. The richness in colors adds to the textures of the image, the rocks. And when I see images like this, it just, because of the interest, I wonder how that formation was created. And I would have looked at maybe creating this image in a different way, maybe taking the multiple images with f-stop changes so that sun wouldn't be as vibrant right there. It's sort of distracting in some ways. I did like it. It met the assignment, and it was a good photo. Thank you. Next.
Moscow Nights.
Yeah, so this image has great color. It's very rich. When it comes to the the assignment of bursts and flares, in the street lights in the back, you can see that there are some bursts that does meet the criteria there. It's not the not the center of the photo. The streak on the right, we think might be a boat, so a slightly longer shutter speed would have allowed for more of that light streak to develop. That said, the story, if it's the lights, the overhang isn't necessary to the story. Nice calendar. I can judge this too. Throw me a curveball. So the image, if it was cropped down below the walkway, that would you'd end up with a pano and a stronger story from the boats leading to the building. All right. Next.
Pink fireworks.
Yeah.
Kathy, would you turn your camera off, Kathy Lauer? Thank you.
Okay, pink fireworks here. So once again, we get the full launch and explosion. So we captured everything in the frame. There is a bit of negative space on the bottom of the frame that's that doesn't move the story forward. And then we're back to the the flares and the sunburst. It's a nice fireworks image, but for the criteria that we were given, it's what would help is, again, a little more light coming either into the lens for a flare, or a higher f-stop number to try and get more of a burst. Just again, in general, fireworks, you want to just let things develop. So 3 to 8 seconds is a good range to live in, and f-stop, 7.1 up through 16. That's obviously going to change depending on how much action is going on there. But that's a few things you can try the next time you get fireworks. All right, next.
Spring at St. Croix Cove.
This image is lovely. It's calm, that nice feeling of spring. I want to walk along that beach. I like the composition, the curve of the river, with a nice sun starburst in it. I think the timing was the way to catch the geese in flight. I like the muted sort of blue and yellow opposite on the color wheel in that combination. I think from an improvement standpoint, one of the things I wish is I knew exactly which part was supposed to be the subject. My eye is moving around a lot. I'm not sure if there's one particular thing you want me to stop on. Although I do like all of it. The other thing I wondered is if you thought about shooting low. I feel like that snow and ice in the foreground would be a really nice foreground subject. And so if you were down lower, that may have been stronger, just a little bit closer in. Again, you may have missed the geese though. So, it's that, maybe taking more shots, having different options. And I do like the geese. So it's a really nice picture.
Okay. Okay, we're moving into the 8s now. Capitol Dome by Marianne Jerks.
This image is lovely. I love the composition of it. I love that it's symmetrical for the most part. I think the blue and yellow colors are the opposite the color wheel, and they're really bright. The blue tops, the yellow tops. I just think that's really pretty. The starbursts on those lights are perfect around the Capitol Dome, and I think it's really well done. I also think, with all those starbursts, it really fits the assignment category very, very well. Improvement, this is a nitpick. It's not perfectly centered. It's a little bit off. And because of that, it draws my eye away from that center point a little bit and kind of distracting. I'm looking at, what could she have done to make it a little bit more perfectly centered? And I know when we discussed this image, I'm not familiar enough with Capitol, but I know there was a thought that those paintings that have been recently refurbished could have been a little bit sharper and brought out to you. But I love this image. I think it's gorgeous.
This is Lowry Bridge by Mike Schrun.
Mike, nice long exposure. I really like this bridge. I used to live up in North Minneapolis, and I've yet to photograph it. You have the uniform starburst on the street lamps. Each one of them, you can see the starburst. All the right colors throughout the bridge. Daryl was telling me that he was out there that same night, and apparently it was supposed to be all red. And you got the Christmas tree effect, which was even more exciting. The whole image is good. I really like the smoothness that was developed in the water. I do take a lot of long exposures, and I like that type of feel for the photograph itself. I think to possibly increase the score a little bit more space at the top. And if you look at the truck and the building, as well as the light post, if there's a way that you can mask those out, not take them away, but really mask them down so you could not see them as much, I think it would really keep the distraction. I don't think it really adds anything to the photo itself, but I liked it a lot. Thank you. Next.
Sunset in Isolation, Fred Savatka.
This was another easy mood image. I really like the feel. As we all say, I wish I was there, sitting on one of those benches. The colors were spot on with no large increases of saturation. You didn't have to do it because that's the sunset. Although the sun is very bright in this image, for the most part, the orange are not explosive white. It doesn't really hurt your eyes to look at that, which is imperative. Everything is in focus, front to back. It's unique because you do have a story of what's going on there with the seats. Maybe again, taking a few extra shots, a little bit reduction on the sun, just a smidgen, and enough that the flares still are exposed in the image. So, and also just a minor thing, the crop it, the tree on the right might be eliminated, or see what that looks like without that tree there. Thank you.
Okay, Hayfield by I'm sorry, Sunset on the Beach is the next one.
Yes.
By Fred Savatka.
Yeah. So clearly the sky is the what first hits you. I mean, this captured some amazing colors, amazing textures, all without losing any detail in the highlights. So that has a big wow factor when it first opens up. As the eye starts moving around, there are various stories. There's the people on the bottom left. There's a sign, and then there's some people in the water on the right. I understand wanting to capture the whole scene, I think a simplified story could be had by either walking forward a bit, so the sign and the structure on the right isn't there, or cropping to that. You'll still end up with some amazingly rich sky. You'll get the starburst, and you'll get the story of the people on the bottom right. So it's a very, very well done image. And just side note for a lot of these images is when you're out, you really work a scene. Right now we're standing here. If you didn't, next time, go out to the right, go out to the left, go forward, put that camera down low, shoot it up high. Especially when you have a rather unique opportunity with this kind of a sky, you want to capture it as many ways as possible. All right, next.
Okay, the 9s.
Mm-hmm.
Hayfield
Yes.
by Mike Schrun.
Yeah, love the story here. Again, so right on target with the assignment. You've got great bursts over there. It's the bursts and the hay bales balance each other out very well. The tone, the colors there are great. You feel like you're there, at least I do. So that's important. That said, I think the image could be a bit stronger. We don't quite need that much sky and that much grass. So cropping this as a pano, we'll still maintain the sunburst, still maintain the hay bales, and it would just allow you to kind of focus a little bit more on those elements. That said, the square crop does also provide a mood. So that's another fun thing about post processing, is it's kind of a second chance to recompose an image sometimes. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, I would be curious as to see what it would look like as a pano, but very well done.
And we discussed this one and had a chance of being 10 the different crop. We all like that one.
Okay, moving on to creative then. 6s. Evergreen Abstract.
I like the composition of this one. I think the colors really pop, the yellow against the green. I love that the cone is off center, and I think that really makes the image nice. A couple things that the photographer might want to think about. I can't tell if it's blur in the background due to the depth of field, or if it's noisy in the image, especially in the lower right where there's the blur of or lower left, excuse me, where there's the blur of the green. Might be good to look at a little bit more noise reduction and see if that does anything to enhance the image. The highlights in the cone too are particularly strong, so it might be something to play with that, the exposure, reducing the highlights. In the field, you could also try a diffuser to try to block the sun a little bit and maybe bring out more of the detail. So overall, a really nice attempt. I think it's a lovely image.
Okay, the 8s. Primal Fear, Pat Chukonis.
Primal Fear, I do have to say for the record, this one just brings me back to when my son was 5 and there was nothing but dinosaurs all the time. So I just loved seeing this one. The fog adds so much to the image and the mood. I like the bright pop of yellow in the eyes. It took me a while to see that there was actually 2 dinosaurs there in the back left. The second one is a little bit harder to see due to the fog. Couple of thoughts on this one. That branch along the top's a little distracting, so I don't know if you've thought about maybe cropping this more as a pano and getting rid of some of that. Or even trying just the front dinosaur as like a square crop, because I do think that front dinosaur with that plant is really strong. More to play with, but I think it's a really nice image. Like I said, the dinosaurs are super fun, and I love the fog.
All right, radiant water and jerks.
Mary Ann, wow, this obviously is a painterly effect, and people don't know that you really need to start with in focus image. You just can't just be playing around painterly, otherwise it's not going to look right. So this image was in focus to start with. It's a special interest in the photograph. Some of the things that are coming out these days, the subject pops right out to you. I mean, there's no hesitation on what is the focal image part of the image. Your vision was brought forward on what you wanted to see with the greens, the pinks, and the yellow. So I thought that was very well put forward in your image. The yellow stamens, is that the correct word to say? Correct pronunciation? Kept my eyes there. So I was always entranced within the photo. Wherever I moved to, I went back to the brightest part, which was the yellow. I wonder what, if anything, would improve this if you would back out a little bit, because it seems like there's some space issues that you might want to add some space, at least to the top, to give it a little bit more depth into the thing. Other than that, I think it was very well done. Thank you.
Moving into nature now, we start with the 5s. This one is called Pretty.
We talked a lot about this, the 4 of us, when we were talking, and we're trying to figure out where the stems are in the picture. You have the photos that are in focus. You have some overlap of the 3rd one up to the left versus the center one. We thought that maybe, again, and I mentioned this in another photo on the assignment, that this might have gone more into the creative area. It is a very creative picture, and to have that masked out and taken the way it is a unique process that is sometimes hard to do. Make sure that what you want pops out and everything else behind is eliminated. So I would think about switching categories next time. Otherwise, it's a fine picture.
And I would add one more point to that, if I could, is that we discussed the depth of field, and it's tricky to deal with depth of field like this, but we all felt the petals that were out of focus affected us a little bit. So keep up with a good idea, just clean up your technique a little bit, as Tom says, and I think it'll jump right up.
Okay, on to the 6s. This is Pax Trio.
Yes. So we have a good placement of the one subject. This is, the photo is actually called Trio, but the background images, background subjects are they're cut off and they're not in focus. This is a pretty interesting subject. So focusing just on that single element could have raised this up a point or so, just because it would give your eye less things to look at, and the one thing that it does look at is quite interesting, because that foreground or the main element is in focus. It is sharp, and the the little the hairs on it are something that you don't quickly see. So that's so focusing on one image is another example of kind of working the scene. Go around and maybe. I like the low angle, but maybe find a spot that doesn't have other elements in the background that could distract.
Okay, we're on 7s now. Anis Sup. Hope I said that right.
Yeah, this has been an education in some of the names of some of these items here. So So the choice to convert this to grayscale allows us to focus on the texture, and that was a nice choice. I don't know what these ordinarily look like. I don't know what it would look like in color, but the treatment to this monochrome works out. We're able to maintain detail. There's no blown highlights there. Again, in order to help out with focus, the distance is sufficient. The placement in the frame is good. A vignette could bring attention to the main subject. You could also change the mid-tone slider in Camera Raw. That would have the effect of boosting the light colors while darkening the dark colors a bit. Once again, bringing focus to the main subject. But I do like the texture that it has.
Okay. Egg Thief.
It's a fantastic story and great timing for the photographer. I'm assuming that the crane has taken the little blackbird's egg, which I think is phenomenal. Never seen that before. I think it's sharp. I think it's nice exposure, particularly because it looks like it's shot in the middle of the day. Super interesting. I think a couple of things for improvement, and I'm going to laugh because I know there's no way to deal with this. If we had gotten a little more eye contact with that crane, I think it would have been a lot more impactful. Not anything you can do about that. So just the nature of the way that nature works. From a processing standpoint, I wondered if you would think about adding a dark vignette to focus a little bit more on the birds, and then also maybe try to lower the highlights in the grasses just to darken that for a little more texture and help the birds stand out a little bit more. But fantastic job.
Okay. Green heron on a stick.
This is a lovely little green heron. I love the feather detail. I think his position on the stick is nice. I think he's framed really well. I wish again the darn bird had turned its head a little bit so you had a little bit more eye contact and catch light. But it's hard to get that to happen. Again, for improvement ideas, I would suggest maybe trying to lower the highlights in the tree and the branch that he's on. That bright white does draw the eye away from the main subject. And I'd also like to see if it's clean over there, a little bit more room over to the right for the heron to fly into. If it takes off. Lovely image. Beautiful image.
Taking a look at it now when I'm
Mallard
seeing this image, it looks like it might be a little bit over sharpened as well. Does everybody see a little bit of halo around things?
Around the beak?
Yeah, especially the beak. Legs a little bit and the twigs. Just a little careful on the sharpening routine, especially when you are preparing it for the stream.
Okay, Mallard family.
Yes, the mallard family. I don't know if how many little ducklings there are there, or there are 5 or more, but it was a really personable photograph capturing all that. The colors, the ducks, the water, everything is on target on that. I think we could have done with a little bit more, well, not really. I was thinking about space, but the space looks very, very good all the way around. The 2 parents are centered, but you want the whole family into the picture. The male's face was a little bit dark, maybe a little bit of lightning going on in there. One of the things when you pull the image closer to 1-to-1, it does get a little bit out of focus. And that was one of the things that we noticed on this, and that was probably one of the main reasons why the focus and the sharpness wasn't more accurate, and if it was, maybe had been accepted. Next.
About that. Moose.
That moose, yes. What a look. I mean, is he looking at you or surprised or what's going on here? Good composition, the depth of field, what's in focus. You got the eye in focus, the nose, the nostrils, ears. So you've got all the critical items in focus for the photo. The background pops out, the starkness of the green and the yellow against the brown. So you have a good three-dimensional representation there. You captured the cat's eye in the eye of the moose, and it was good focus all the way around. I'm not sure exactly how much more image you have around the top as well as the bottom and the left side. I think this needs a little bit more space on this. A lot of judges say, well, crop here and crop there. I think this might be a little bit cropped too much. Give it a try and see what it looks like. Thank you.
Morning sun at Bryce.
Yes. Yeah, there is there's a lot to look at here, and the warm tones of the rock play off well with the cool tones of the mountains in the background. So that's just a nice balance. Yeah, cropping from above the most interest is back. You know, the bottom 1/3 doesn't have as much interest as the top 2/3. So once again, you know, cropping up from just above that pine tree, again, just kind of have the effect of turning this into a pano. I think would have popped this up a point or so. But overall, the balance of the image and the color work out very well. All right, next.
Did you mention
Swan
the
food.
Christmas tree?
Head. The Christmas tree?
Did
Yeah.
somebody else have a comment?
Okay. All right. It was swan food here. Go ahead. All right. So here we have a really good angle. And we are down in the in the water with this with the subject here. So that's nice. Got a good f-stop, nice and sharp. You know, it's a very bright light on the guy, but the exposure isn't too much. We didn't lose detail in the critical areas, and as Tom mentioned before about where we was talking about crop. This is another case where a little more space above could have helped breathe and provide a little more environment. But going back to the and then, well, I mentioned the f-stop for getting everything in sharp. The shutter speed of being able to capture the water jumping up there really makes this a very dynamic image. So it's very nice. Next.
Now we're in the 8s. Black Crown Night Heron by Larry Weinman.
Larry, this image is gorgeous. I'm very jealous that you have this guy. He's fantastic, really sharp. I think he's got great detail in his feathers. The exposure is really nice. Good catch light. That background, the blur of the water really sets him off. I think he's lovely. A couple things, if possible, it'd be nice if you had a little more room on the left to look into or fly off into. the other thing, and I know that herons can be very skittish, but if you got a little bit lower so that his eye was straight on, I think that would make this portrait even stronger, give it a little bit more room on top of his head too. But it's absolutely gorgeous.
Common merganser takeoff, Don Specht.
Love this guy. The orange color just pops. I think he's sharp. The color's nice. The exposure is great in the middle of the day. I think the action is fantastic. I love the position his feet are in. I love all those water droplets going up as he's starting to take off. I think the background, that water, the blue kind of brown that almost matches his feathers is fantastic. I like the reflection of him in the water. Not tons of ideas for improvement. If possible, again, I always like a little bit of room for them to fly into to give the bird a little bit more space, but this image is lovely.
Northern Mockingbird, Melissa Anderson.
Well, Melissa, I love taking photos of birds quite a lot, and your moment of capture was beautiful. The body of the bird was at rest. However, the wings had a little bit of motion, so you know that things hadn't completely settled down. So it provides the motion and the interest in the picture for me. You caught a little bit of the sun in the bird's eye, which is always a must. This is not a well-seen bird. I would love to focus and find one of these birds sometime in the future. As far as I know, and when I compared it, the colors are spot on. They're right on as far as the coloring. The twig and the newness of the branch in the spring, everything fit together very, very well. I see virtually nothing, maybe, if anything, a little bit more space on the left-hand side. Next.
Skipper Bloom, Carl Wegner.
Well, when I first wrote this up, I said, having the luck of 4 moths. And Diane Herman quickly said, no, Tom, those are butterflies. Those are actually not moths. I took one of these skippers in my own garden, taking a sip of a bleeding heart during the spring. So I was happy that I found out that it's not a moth, but it is a butterfly. You've got something very rare, the 4 butterflies on one image in all different types of poses, left, right, side, and full expansion. No doubt that was a tricky photo to take, and it was sort of time. Do I put a large f-stop on this, or do I focus on one particular skipper or not? So you had a lot of decisions to make and do it very quickly. Your processing was good. The bokeh in the background really made the image, as far as the skippers and the flower, pop back out to you. I think your depth of field was okay. The flowers might have been a little bit sharper, but I think you're going for the sharpness of the skipper itself. So congratulations on this photo.
Okay, Thistle by Mike Trun.
Yeah, this is it's graphic. I mean, obviously we know it's a photo, but this point of view and those colors, I mean, it is eye catching. So excellent use of aperture to get the right stuff in focus. Letting that the stem and the leaf in the background go out of focus. They don't. They're not going to help the image at all. The crop just focuses your eye on this on the subject. It's very nice. A slightly darker vignette would further help that cause. Is the border isn't doing much there, so yeah, having that darkened would make the subject pop that much more. Cool image. All right, next.
All right, on to the 9s. Loon
Yes.
Family Silhouette, Betty
Yeah.
Bryan.
Yeah. I just love looking at this scene. This is it has a lot going for it. We got the element of three. That's always good and art. So it's got that going on. It's well defined, proper white balance, and you got some engaging action and a nice point of view here. There's there isn't anything that I can offer up that I want to see different out of the image. I think it's just fantastic. I would offer up the one suggestion is it is accurate that it is Loon Family Silhouette. I'll subtitle it On Golden Pond because it's just a very nice scene. Very well done. Thank you.
And just a note to add to that one is that a couple of us out of the 4 did rate this as a 10. So it was one of the most liked images in the category.
All right, on to pictorial. We'll start with the 5s. Prairie Blue-Eyed Grass.
I hope that the photographer can hear my heart breaking a little bit about this one. I happen to love this image, everything about it. The processing is fantastic. Unfortunately, I think it does not belong in the category. Pictorial cannot be manipulated. And I do not think that the flower came in the picture this way. If I'm wrong and the photographer wants to reach out, via Terry, because it in fact is as it looked in nature, I think, I'd love to know that. I think the background's lovely. I think it's got great detail and color, but I think it should have been entered in the creative category, not realistic. We as the judges talked about whether we could move it, but I felt pretty strongly that we didn't want to override what the artist had submitted it as, and that it needed to stay in the category where it was entered. And so unfortunately, we gave it a 5 because really it doesn't meet the criteria for the category.
6s, starting with Breakdance for George Floyd.
This is a great location and timing for the documentary shot of some of the action following the events of George Floyd's death. And it seems like it might be perhaps at a time when people were starting to get together to maybe celebrate his life and try to begin the healing. I think you were at the right place at the right time. Unfortunately, there's a couple of aspects about this photo that don't really work. I think your subject and the 2 people in front of him are all facing away, and so you don't have that connection, if you will, with the main subject. Also, the shutter speed is a little bit slow. He's very blurred in his arm that's up in the air, and the midday light is pretty tough. So the other thing I was thinking is perhaps if we'd gotten just a little bit lower than even with the dancer's head, it might have made it a little bit more interesting and dynamic. But just great documentary shot.
Emerald Lake, Canada.
To me, and as well as a couple of the other judges when we were talking about this, thought that this could be really used as an advertisement in a magazine. You captured a lot of image in there. Majestic mountains, the calm water. I believe you got the image that you had in your mind, and that's most important, is what you were intending to shoot in your image. The canoes grabbed a little bit too much of the attention in the photo. You met the thirds as far as the depth of field of where the mountains were, what was in the foreground and the background. So you may not want to alter the image too much. I would think that maybe you would have taken a little bit longer shot and maybe even flattened that water out a little bit more, made it even more smooth, not doesn't smoothly. The mountains are your subject matter, and if you look in the sky, there seems to be something going on. I don't know if there's a filter that was being used, but the sky definition looks a little bit off on the top, as well as around the peaks in the mountains. For that reason, you received the score that you did. It's very grandeur. Next.
Got pollen.
For those who shoot macro, and I like shooting macro, it's always a challenge. Things move very quickly in and out of focus. And when you're shooting bugs, it needs to be quick. And this was quick and also very interesting. What they are doing or aren't doing. It's obvious in the image that they were bringing down themselves onto the flower. There wasn't any blurring. The focal point seemed to be the pollen itself, and I don't know how you would have gotten that. So the pollen was secondary to the actual head of the bug itself. There's not much I could do for this image. I think it was a very good image.
Tom, we did talk a little bit about it seems to be a little on the dark side. It appears that it doesn't have as much brightness as it could have, and we could have scored it higher with a little better exposure.
Very good point. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have good composition in the frame. So we have you know, sometimes negative space helps focus the viewer's attention to the subject. So we have nothing for a background to get in the way. So we are looking directly at the skull here. Now it looks like it's I mean the depth, the focal plane is so shallow that it actually distracts a bit from the image, which is very, very interesting subject. So you're doing some focus stacking or just slightly wider aperture would help get more in focus and therefore
I'm sorry for
raised it
my
up.
everyone. Sorry.
Okay.
And to hear him skull is the
Yes. All right. Next.
dropping in.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So I mean, it's a very interesting angle, obviously, shot from either another balloon or a drone, and it shows how massive the balloon is. That said, it is a big balloon in a neighborhood. We don't know what happened either right before or right after that, and we discussed. I think that potentially would have been a more interesting shot had if there was trouble with the trees. The composition having it right in the middle of the frame isn't helping a whole lot. It does the color difference between the subject and all of the snow certainly helps it pop. But and obviously if you are floating away, you can't recompose the shot very, very easily there. But even cropping so it's not so centered could have helped.
High flyer.
It's a really strong composition. I like where he's placed in the frame, close to the thirds. I think he's got some room to fly. I love the pop of that neon green on the wings. It really draws attention. Improvement ideas. I feel like he looks a little bit static in spite of flying. Wish there was a little more, I don't know, intensity to the shot somehow. I also think that maybe a tighter crop would make him a little bit bigger in the frame, bringing him just a little bit from the bottom. But it's a really nice image and well composed.
Lower dells.
I like the composition on this one. I think the main island in the Dales is really sharp. I think the water reflection is just lovely. One of the distractions in this is that it does look like that main subject is kind of leaning to the right. So if we could straighten the slope on the island. It's also shot at a very tough time of day. So there's some highlights that are there, or maybe trying to locally darken the island and the sky to bring out a little bit more of these details would help a little bit. The texture in the clouds was really nice. It's lovely.
Quadrillion.
I'm glad you said that. I couldn't. The play of architectural angles was fun to. Pardon me? Terry, I'm sorry. Did
I said it wrong.
The play of the architectural angles was fun to explore. I like architect, and one of the criteria of this particular category is you need to have things that are pretty much out of camera. So you can't do a lot to your photos, which is restrictive. But this is a very unique photo. The lines intersecting, the colors, the merging of the sky and the windows, it had a lot of depth into the photograph. The contrast of the shadows and the brightness helped with the overall image perspective from down below in the shadows to up above where it was brighter. The focus was top to bottom was in focus. I like to have seen more of the photo at the top. I believe that the cutting of that rounded edge detracted a little bit on the overall on the picture, cut off some of the interest. If you have a little bit more space at the top, that might be something to review in the future. And a little bit to the left, not sure what your camera, what type of millimeter camera you're using, but I like this picture. Next.
Sunset.
All right, you have sunset. The colors in the photo are right on. You've got the orange glow of the sun. You've got the background dusk image of not really clouds, but just sort of the dusk image of the photo itself. You've got the birds that are flying in the air. You've got the boats docked for the night, and you have the pavilion empty. There's some things that, as a judge, that you look for, and that is, what is the focal point in this photo? Is it the birds, is it the boat, or is it the sunset? And I think that was a little bit confusing for us as judges to figure out. Also, as somebody, I think Dak had mentioned it, or Diane had mentioned, when you look at the canopy of the tiki hut, it lines up with the landscape image in the background. How should I say this? I'm trying to look for the
horizon.
word. The horizon, that's the word, thank you. You know, dementia hasn't set in quite yet. But you should try to avoid that next time when you have the chance and opportunity. Thank you.
Badlands Sundown.
All right. So Badlands, it's a fun place to explore and photograph. In general, of course, there's always exceptions. You know, good landscape, you're going to have your foreground, your middle ground, and your background. And here we have a very nicely layered composition. And this is one I found interesting. And this is applicable to pretty much any image these days. Depending on what monitor you're looking at it, those colors are going to shift. So when you're going to get something printed, you want to there's a press check, this and that. So in this case, the couple monitors that I viewed it on felt the colors were a bit off, and a conversion to black and white would eliminate any shift like that. The texture of the Badlands themselves is is a star, and I would like to see that pulled out a little bit more. But I do like the composition of capturing the three elements. All right, next.
Him, Pat
Yeah,
Chaconis.
yeah, yeah. It's look at those eyes looking back at you. I mean, we got a little catch light there, so that's a very very soft light. There's a as we discussed the image, there were various stories about what we were looking at. So is the fur dirty? Is it wet? What's Nim up to? So that's the fact that we end up having a conversation about this image when we're just looking at a dog's head up close is says something about capturing the moment, capturing this particular image here. The brightest spot is between the nose and the eyes. Perhaps using the radial filter and camera raw around the eye area to brighten that up a little bit, to bring more focus to the eyes, and less attention from the nose would have helped to bring a little more attention to those cute eyes. But overall, it's a very very nice image. Next.
By Ricky Van Dyke.
Love this image. I think the black and white is a great choice for it. The texture with the chip paint on the gate, nice. I think that gate's such a great leading line up to all those crosses and the glass really draws me in. I think the composition it's very, very strong. We talked about this one a lot, and I think one of the things that we talked about was if the gate had been open a little bit wider, if maybe the image would have been stronger, you still would have seen it, it still would have drawn you in, but you would have had a little bit more of some of those crosses, and it could have been a little bit stronger by not blocking part of the image. But that's a personal choice. Hopefully you have some options with a lovely image. The other thing that I thought about was maybe trying to lower a little bit on the highlights in the sky in the background, but that's really big and lovely image, one of my favorites.
Alyssa Anderson.
Well, that's a lovely image. I wish I knew who this bird was. I like the composition. I love the spread of the wings. I think he's really interesting. I love the shutter speed that you chose for him. The background really sets the bird off. I think the light sort of shining through the wing on the right is really pretty. The improvement idea maybe would be to lower the highlights on the wings just to bring out a little bit more texture in the feathers. And then I usually like a dark vignette around the image, not too dark, but just to try to focus the attention on the subject a little bit. But it's a lovely image. Well done.
On to the nines. Playing with Fire, Fred Sabatka.
Boy, what a great category this was. It's a great pictorial. It's been a while since I've seen a performer like this. The last time I saw was with one of the fire breathers, but it's remarkable, really remarkable that you captured so much in such a short time, because you have to take this photo very quickly. As you can see, the flames are very sharp, and to get the structure of those flames, you have to take a very fast photo. So I commend you on doing that so well. There's no blurring in this photo. The subject is in focus, the fire, the flames, the wheel, everything is in focus about this photo. Very little grain on it. I don't know much more that you can do with this other than maybe doing something with the gentleman's face. And I know that wasn't allowed in this pictorial, but if you're to submit it someplace else, a little bit lighter in his face and a little bit more room at the top. Very well done. Thank you. Next. Okay, I said earlier I love taking
Ruby-throated
birds.
hummingbirds.
Sorry, Mary Ann. I take a lot of pictures of hummingbirds, and I like these little Dickens. They're very, very difficult to capture because they're scooting around so quick and they're so small. So congratulations on capturing this image. You've captured the body at still, but the wings are still rapidly going. More than likely, you probably took about 30 photos to get one good shot. And there's enough movement to capture a hummer in action. And you've caught the eye light, the catch light in his eye, which is, again, very evident and very needed for bird photography. You also captured the iridescence in the feathering, which is very important, especially on these particular birds. Having photographed these many times, I was aware that the neck coloring seemed to be off. I'm not sure. I've not seen that much red. What I usually have seen is more of the orange iridescent. So I know that you weren't allowed to manipulate the photo, but I might want to look at changing those that to orange. Otherwise, a fabulous image.
Saint.
Yes. Love this the image. Oftentimes, I mentioned a shooting angle of higher than eye level or lower than eye level is going to add interest. Here, eye level is the appropriate appropriate point of view for the image, because we have a few elements that work out well. So we have the gravel road in front that creates this kind of dynamic feel. We have the white building against the impending storm. I mean this if it was just a plain blue sky, that it would not have worked as well to create the mood that that the maker did with this image. The texture between the again, the ground and the building, and then there's the feel of the sky. They all complement each other very well. Only thing I would be curious if the photographer had an ND filter to try and get some streaky clouds that could have been interesting, or safely get some lightning shots too. That would have been that's asking a little too much. I love the simplicity and the mood that the photographer was able to create with this image. Very, very well done.
Okay, I think we're done. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Daryl, could you share your screen again so I can get at my controls to stop the recording?
Oh, okay. Can you not see it at this point?
Yeah, I can't find it.
All right, I will share and see if it does.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.